So some people are intimidated by college and university, and that includes even me. When I was young, I was definitely intimidated by college and university. It was a new environment, it was a big environment, it was a little bit scary and overwhelming. I had classes with hundreds of students in them. I felt like a little fish in a very big pond, and that there was a lot of other fish around me. I felt a little bit lost and confused. I didn't know what I was doing, and that's all okay. It's totally okay to acknowledge that and just kind of be like, it's all right to be lost and confused. And by doing that which we don't know how to do, over time we figure out how to do it. So we put ourselves into new environments and we try new things, and at first it's very foreign and it's unfamiliar and we don't know how to do it. But then over time we become very comfortable with it and we become more of a senior. A junior, a senior, or a sophomore, right? And we're like, okay, I'm starting to see how this process works, and I see what I'm supposed to do. And by you taking this course, it's really going to help you on that. It's going to help you become more familiar with it. But it can be intimidating, and a lot of people can have that question as to whether or not they can succeed in college. And so this is a question that's actually been asked by a lot of people. A lot of individuals have asked this question. And they wonder, can I succeed in college? And some people, it has prevented them. Like they haven't felt within themselves that they've been able to succeed in college, and it prevented them from pursuing their college, their university degrees. But other people, right, they've moved forward and they've done it. And so in addition, researchers have asked this question, like what is it that allows people to succeed at college and university? Here's the main point, okay? What is it? What's the number one factor that allows people to succeed at college and university? Is it whether or not their parents went to college or university? Is it whether or not they come from one side of the tracks or the other side of the tracks? And by that, I mean, do they come from one socioeconomic demographic or another socioeconomic demographic, right? Does it, like what are the factors that correlate with success for students at college or university? So this has been studied, and the number one factor that correlates with student success, it's not how rich your family is. It's not whether or not your parents also went to college or university. It's not even how smart you are. The number one thing that correlates with student success is grit. And grit means that you're tenacious and that you have passion and that you just don't quit. Grit means you don't quit. Grit means that you prioritize it. Grit means that no matter what, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to earn my bachelor's degree and then my master's degree and my doctorate degree, and nothing is going to stop me. Nothing's going to stop me. That's grit. And come hell or high water, you're going to get that. So there's a story about an actor who's fallen out of favor, Will Smith, right? He punched Chris Rock at the Oscars, and he's fallen out of favor since then. But Will Smith has this great story. Somebody said, hey, how did you become successful? How did you become a successful like action hero, major movie star? How did you do that? And he said, well, if and he kind of hemmed and hawed for a second. He said, if you put me on a treadmill and you put some other guy on a treadmill next to me and it's like a contest, who can go the longest, one of two things is going to happen, right? Either that guy's going to step off or I'm going to die. That's what Will Smith said, meaning the other guy's going to quit or give up or pass out or die. He's going to get off or I'm going to die. Like Will Smith's like, I'm not going to quit. Like, I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to die. And that's grit. That's tenacity. That's persistence. And so that could sound a little bit intense. That could sound a little bit extreme, but it is a mindset. And it's a mindset that if you adopt this mindset, then nothing is going to stop you. Guess what? Nothing's going to stop you. Right? If you don't let anything stop you, if you're going to find a way, you will find a way. Nothing's going to stop you. Nothing's going to stop you. You have grit. You don't quit. Nothing's going to stop you. And that's exactly what happened in my family system. So I ask people sometimes, what do you think poor looks like? And people will give me descriptions that include apartments with 2 bedrooms and indoor plumbing and HVAC and a fridge and food. Like people will give me those descriptions, but it's just not on the nice side of town, right? And then sometimes people will give me a little bit more austere conditions, and then I'll be like, but do they have electricity? Oh yeah, they have electricity, right? This is how my family grew up just one generation back, just my dad's generation. There was no electricity. They were in a house. They were farmers. They were dirt poor. They were north of Winnipeg, which is in Canada, which is north of North Dakota. North Dakota is super cold. And they had a wood house. They were farmers, my ancestors, my grandpa, right? He was a farmer on my dad's side, north of Winnipeg. They had a wood house out on a prairie in a field of wheat. And they had livestock and they had a barn. They had a wood house. There was no electricity. There was no indoor plumbing. There was no running water. There was no hot water, no cold water. There was no water in the house. There was no gas, no gas stove, no heater. There was no HVAC, right? If they wanted heat, they burned wood. If they wanted to cook something, they burned wood in a wood stove. And that's how they did it. If they wanted water, they went to the creek and they got water. If they wanted water in winter, they melted snow on the wood stove. If they wanted meat, they killed something. You know, if they wanted vegetables in the winter, they did the canning in the summer to have them. But they had nothing. They didn't have TV. They didn't have internet. They had no electricity. They had no heat, no indoor plumbing. That was one generation back. And then my dad said he wanted something better for his life. And so he went into Winnipeg his senior year. This is a story to illustrate grit. He lived with Uncle Bud. He lived with Uncle Bud. I don't know what that makes him to me, but Uncle Bud taught me to box when I was younger. But my dad lived with Uncle Bud and went to the high school his senior year in Winnipeg, the big city. And then he wanted to go to college, but he could not pass the exam to get into college. He couldn't pass the math portion in Canada. And so a lot of people would have quit at that point. But my dad said, well, do they have a math exam in America? And he found a college in America, in Nebraska, and he was able to get into that college. And he went to America and he got his bachelor's degree, just kept going. And he met a professor that he liked, a professor of sociology. And the professor of sociology said, hey, you're really good thinking about this stuff and you're a really good reader. Because my dad would just read in the evenings when he was young because they didn't have TV, so he became a really good reader. And so, you know, my dad just kept going to school, and eventually they gave him a master's degree, and then they gave him a doctorate degree. And then he became a professor here in California, where I live now. And he became a professor of sociology. And then when I was a kid in the summers, we would go back to Canada, and my dad would teach summer school in the Canadian universities, the same universities that wouldn't let him in as a student. Right? And that transformed our family's life. We went from dirt poor farmers, poorer than most people can imagine, to my father became a professor, and then I became a professor. And it transformed our lives. It transformed his life, it transformed our family's lives, it transformed my kids' lives. His tenacity, his grit, he was fighting not only for a better life for himself, but what he fought for is going to ripple down through the generations, right? Because he had that grit, he had that tenacity, he had that spirit within him that would just not quit. Even when the doors were shut, he said, I'm going to find another way. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to earn my bachelor's. I'm going to earn my master's. I'm going to earn my doctorate. And he did. And he became a professor. And so that level of grit is the number one factor that correlates with student success. And you could watch this YouTube video, and you could go to YouTube, and you could search for Angela Duckworth TED Talk Grit. So you could search for that. And it's right here. It's the power of passion and perseverance. And so Angela Duckworth studied what's the number one factor that correlates with student success. And that number one factor is grit. And she also has a great book on Amazon that talks about this. I don't know what's going to come up when I click continue shopping. So Grit, Angela Duckworth. And so you could get this book and you could read it if you like reading. Or you could listen to the audio book. And we're going to talk more about audiobooks coming up later in the course. But this is also a good thing to listen to because it will inspire you. It'll inspire you to have that tenacity. And one of the ways you learn what's possible in life is you surround yourself with people who are doing those things. And so by listening to her talk, by coming over here and listening to her video, you're having a seed planted in your mind of what's possible. You're having this idea that you can just go after something and not quit. Like nothing's going to make you quit. You could go after it and you could have grit, you could have tenacity, you could have persistence, and you can achieve it. And when you do that, right, one of two things is going to happen. Like if you have that mentality, you're either going to earn that degree, that bachelor's, that master's, that doctorate, that MD. You're going to either earn it or you're going to die. Those are the two potential outcomes. And if you're blessed and you can get to continue enjoying this experience of life on this planet called Earth, then you're going to earn that degree. And so that's what grit is. That's what persistence is. And that's the number one factor that corresponds with student success. All right. So can you succeed in college? The answer to that question is yes. You just have to have grit.